I wanted to talk about something that was fun, so I looked at the list of characters I wanted to make content on, and I saw among them was Gleek, yes, the Wonder Twins Blue Monkey. So that's what today's video is about. Along with why it is I actually kind of like Gleek. Yes, I like the Blue Monkey, come at me. Now, Gleek was originally created for the 70s and early 80s, a Super Friends show, with the Wonder Twins and Gleek replacing Marvin, Wendy, the Wonder Dog, as the comedic teen characters and animal character. They would replace them because of, well, not exactly the best response came from Wendy, Marvin, and the Wonder Dog. Also, there was a really odd claim about the show, that being apparently it was violent. Now, this show was included in my childhood. It wasn't a huge part of it, but I definitely watched it. It is nowhere close to being violent. And the reason why they got booted off the show for being violent is because having non-powered characters was seen as being odd. Well, I guess Batman and Robin be damned. Green Arrow also appeared in the show at one point. Why is that the reason why Marvin, Wendy, and Wonder Dog are on it? And technically, Wonder Dog does have a power. He's a talking dog. Does that count as a power? Doesn't that make Scooby-Doo a superhero when you think about it? Anyways, back to Gleek. Gleek is a blue monkey that was given to the twins by a clown from their home planet. Xon? Exxon, whatever. It's a planet with various different ways to spell it. Also, this whole origin comes from the tie-in comics of the show, not the show itself, because it was never actually said on the actual show. Also, Gleek can sometimes turn invisible. Sometimes, however, not all the time. On the show, he'd also use his tail as a weapon, like a lasso, or even use it as a jump rope sometimes, which I'll be honest, I did think was pretty funny. Now, while he was more involved in the plot than the previous animal hero, that being Wonder Dog, he still failed to manage to get positive responses. However, he did have some fans, and in my opinion, from what I can see, he did have more fans than Wonder Dog, whose name also is ironically more tied to the Wonder Twins' name than Gleek is. Also, Gleek was originally meant to be named the Super Monkey, but that was dropped. Likely because Super Monkey makes it sound like he is Superman's monkey. Now, Gleek and the Wonder Twins were both just randomly written out of the show without really any explanation to where they went. But by the end of the series, both of the characters and their pet monkey were just now gone. Later on in the 90s, the character was intended to return, being described as being a purple monkey from a purple monkey planet. This was meant to be in the Justice League Extreme comic, and yes, he was meant to be purple now, not blue. However, this never happened. With the book he was meant to appear on, having writers being swapped out. But the twins themselves did appear in the comic without their monkey. And when the twins were brought into Smallville, Gleek was just turned into a phone Easter egg. Well, the DCAU would also just not include Gleek when they did an update to the Wonder Twins. It seems as if there was some collective agreement that in order to update the twins, you couldn't do that with Gleek around, being considered being just too silly of a concept. He would make cameos in both Batman the Brave and the Bold as a dead taxidermied statue. I mean, technically, he just makes a cameo in the background, and it's only assumed he's taxidermied because it's a statue, and it seems like a prize to the person who has it, that being the Faceless Hunter. And he'd also appear in the Lego Batman movie, a part of the Super Friends. Just ever so briefly. The character would also then go on to somewhat appear in live action. I say somewhat appear because he technically doesn't actually appear, but you do hear his voice, that being the monkey sounds. With it being in the Arrowverse, with the character of Gleek apparently escaping his cage at the very end of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Also, it was presumed that the character would return on Legends of Tomorrow at one point, but that never happened. As Legends also kinda implemented the Wonder Twins, I say kinda, as the characters of Bayrod and Zari were referenced as being the Wonder Twins. Which is kind of odd because they don't actually have really anything to do with the Wonder Twins, nor are they twins. But regardless, it was probably just meant to be a fun reference to the characters. He would finally return to the pages of comics in the 2019 Wonder Twins comic, which did very well. It would update Gleek and the twins in a way that wasn't mocking to them. But instead, they were corny and fun, but they were embracing the idea of what made the character so iconic. They weren't trying to make them edgy like the 90s update. But they still took the characters seriously. They weren't just throwing them aside and saying, oh, look at these goofballs. This series, like I said, did really well. It was popular enough that it got extended to 12 issues, which it was originally meant to only be 6. This series as a whole, in my opinion, is actually really good. I like Gleek a lot, and I like the Wonder Twins a lot, and I like seeing that the characters are being handled in a way that are not mocking them, because they're mocked a lot, and I get it. They're silly. They're really silly, and I understand that. But you can do the characters without mocking them or having the characters being presented in a way that is edifying them. Not to say some of the updates were actually, in my opinion, bad, because I think some of them were actually really good. The Smallville one I really liked. Same thing with the DCAU one. Well, I will admit I did not like the 90s one at all. It was very... yeah, it incorporated an incest element to the twins, which I really disliked. Luckily, that's not a thing in the 2019 run. Gleek would also appear in the Capstone Kid comics, which are these like golden back books that were intended to be aimed for younger audiences. I myself have seen them like everywhere in libraries, bookstores, etc. So I'm going to presume that most people probably know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, they're just like these kid comic books that are intended to be more silly and fun, but also have some pretty surprising jokes when it comes down to comic history. I say surprising because there are definitely some jokes in here I don't think that anyone who doesn't read comics is going to get. For example, Gleek, I think, is definitely an example of that, because Gleek in this iteration is very clearly intended to be a joke about the Super Friends show. He here is used as a super pet, but not a super pet as in the Super Pets, but a pet that is super. Does that make sense? His design shows just how cute and fun the character can look like, if given some love, and I think it's my favorite of his looks, because he really does look very adorable. Now, the character of Gleek, in my opinion, is underrated. Yes, I know it's a blue monkey who turns invisible and fights with his tail. I get it. It's silly. I'm not saying it's not silly, because I know it's silly, it's corny, it's laughable, but that's why I like it so much. It's just something that is fun, and it doesn't take it too seriously. Comic books are full of very dark and bleak storylines, multiple of which I personally really like. But you also need some more fun times in comic book too. And I think Gleek very much can help with that. Which might sound like an odd thing to say, but the Wonder Twins very much are doing that now in DC Comics. They were brought back for the reason of bringing in some more lighthearted moments. So Gleek in a way is technically just a part of that. However, he isn't ever really used as much as the Wonder Twins, which in my opinion is kind of sad, because a lot of the times when they try to update the Wonder Twins, they seem as if they just want to get rid of Gleek. So I'm happy to say that isn't the case anymore, or isn't at the moment at least. Also, I don't think I'm ever going to get over the taxidermy version of Gleek. That is dark. That's for a kid's show, but it was in the background, so it wasn't really something that I think a lot of people caught onto, unless you, like, paused it, because it was kept as a trophy. So it's implying that it's a taxidermy statue of Gleek, meaning he's dead, which is really unfortunate. Also, the character being able to turn to be invisible is something that I think is very inconsistent with the character. That could be done if they want to do more with the character when it comes down to like fighting style, having the character turn more invisible more often. But if you want to be more just like a fun sidekick type character, then I don't think you have to have the character be invisible. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!